monsters. Part 1. FBI releases updates 2020 hate crimes statistics. Source FBI.gov. The FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting (UCR) program released amended 2020 hate crime statistics about bias-motivated incidents throughout the nation. Hate crime statistics for 2020 were originally released in August 2021. Due to a technical issue with submission, only partial Ohio data for 2020 was released. For that reason, modifications were made to Ohio's hate crime data in the FBI's database following their release. In turn, these updates affected the national hate crime totals. The updated 2020 data submitted by 15,138 law enforcement agencies provide information about the offenses, victims, offenders, and locations of hate crimes. Law enforcement agencies submitted incident reports involving 8,263 criminal incidents and 11,129 related offenses as being motivated by bias toward race, ethnicity, ancestry, religion, sexual orientation, disability, gender, and gender identity. Highlights of hate crime statistics 2020 follow due to rounding percentage breakdown may not add to 100%. Victims of hate crime incidents. There were 8,052 single bias incidents involving 11,126 victims. A percent distribution of victims by bias type shows that 61.8% of victims were targeted because of the offender's race/ethnicity/ancestry bias. 20.0% were victimized because of the offender's sexual orientation bias. 13.3% were targeted because of the offender's religious bias. 2.7% were targeted because of the offender's gender identity bias. 1.4% were victimized because of the offender's disability bias, and 0.7% were victimized because of the offender's gender bias. There were 211 multiple bias hate crime incidents that involved 346 victims. Offenses by crime category. Of the 7,750 hate crime offenses classified as crimes against persons in 2020, 53.1% were for the intimidation, 27.9% were for simple assault, and 17.9% were for aggravated assault. 22 murders and 21 rapes were reported as hate crimes. The remaining 32 hate crime offenses were reported in the category of other. Of the 3,147 hate crime offenses classified as crimes against property, most, 74.1%, were acts of destruction/damage/vandalism. Robbery, burglary, larceny, theft, motor vehicle theft, arson, and other offenses accounted for the remaining 25.9% of crimes against property. 232 additional offenses were classified as crimes against society. This crime category represents society's prohibition against engaging in certain types of activity, such as gambling, prostitution, and drug violations. These are typically victimless crimes in which property is not the object. Known offenders. In the UCR program, the term known offender does not imply that the suspect's identity is known. Rather, the term indicates that some aspect of the suspect was identified, thus distinguishing the suspect from an unknown offender. Law enforcement agencies specify the number of offenders and, when possible, the race of the offender or offenders as a group. Beginning in 2013, law enforcement agencies began reporting whether suspects were juveniles or adults, as well as the suspect's ethnicity when possible. Of the 6,780 known offenders, 55.1% were white and 21.2% were black or African American. Other races accounted for the remaining known offenders. 1.1% were Asian, 1% were American Indian or Alaska Native, 0.5% were Native, Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander, and 5.4% were of a group of multiple races. The race was unknown for 15.7%. Of the 6,169 known offenders for whom ethnicity was reported, 39.3% were not Hispanic or Latino, 10.2% were Hispanic or Latino, and 2.4% were in a group of multiple ethnicities. Ethnicity was unknown for 48.1% of these offenders. Of the 6,264 known offenders for whom ages were known, 89.1% were 18 years of age or older. Locations of hate crimes. Law enforcement agencies may specify the location of an offense within a hate crime incident as one of 46 location designations. In 2020, most hate crime incidents, 28.9%, occurred in or near residences/homes. Nearly 20%, 19.9%, nearly 20%, 19.9%, occurred on highways, roads, alleys, streets, sidewalks. 6.5% happened at parking, drop lots, garages. 4.2% occurred at schools, colleges. 3.6% occurred at parks, playgrounds, and 3.4% took place in churches, synagogues, temples, and mosques. The location was reported as other or unknown for 8.6% of hate crime incidents. The remaining 24.8% of hate crime incidents took place at other or multiple locations. Part 2. Individual hate crime stories. 45-year-old Hamilton woman arrested after anti-black hate-motivated assaults, police say. Source, cbc.ca. Location, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. A 45-year-old woman has been arrested, Hamilton police say, after a series of hate-motivated assaults. Police responded on May 12th and 13th to separate incidents, all involving the same female suspect, and the attacker could be heard uttering anti-black hate speech, they said. The victims were between the ages of 14 and 24, police say, and one suffered minor injuries. Police said the incidents took place in Lower Stony Creek. Melissa Damon of Hamilton is facing 4 assault charges. Police say the hate crime unit is assisting in the investigation. Man shaken after being injured in racially motivated attack. Source: the BBC. Location: Northern Ireland. A man has been left shaken and distressed after being attacked by a group of teenagers in Belfast. Police are describing the assault, which happened in the Donegal Road area on Thursday evening, as a racially motivated hate crime. The man in his 20s was walking home from work at around 10:25 p.m. when he was approached by up to 15 teenagers at the junction of Pandora Street. Members of the group surrounded the man and threw punches at him, injuring his nose. After throwing a traffic cone in his direction, the attackers then stole his bike and made off down Prince Andrew Park. The bike was later recovered by police some distance away. South Belfast Neighbourhood Inspector Roisin Brown said this unprovoked attack on a young man going about his business is completely unacceptable. He has been left shaken and distressed, as well as sustaining an injury which required medical treatment, Inspector Brown said. Hate crime has no place in our society, and we will be proactive in our approach to ensure justice for victims. She added that local officers are working to identify those involved, quote, so that they can be held to account for their actions. Police are appealing for anyone with information to contact them. U.S. man gets 53 years for fatally stabbing Palestinian American child. Source: BBC. Location: Chicago. An Illinois landlord who fatally stabbed a 6-year-old Palestinian American boy and severely wounded his mother has been sentenced to 53 years in prison. Joseph Suzuba, 73, was convicted in February for murder and hate crimes for the death of Wadi Al-Fayumi and the wounding of his mother, Hanan Shaheen, in 2023, shortly after the start of the Israel-Gaza war. The family had been tenants in Suzuba's home in Plainfield, roughly 64 kilometers from Chicago. Prosecutors said he targeted them over their Muslim faith. Suzuba had pleaded not guilty, but jurors convicted him after deliberating for less than 90 minutes. Wadi Al-Yumi's great-uncle, Mahmoud Youssef, told the court on Friday that no sentence was going to justify the boy's death, according to NBC News. The day he was killed, his father had memories, had plans for his son. He continued, saying Suzuba had no right to take them. Appearing in a red jail uniform, the thin and frail-looking convict declined to speak on his own behalf. The trial included testimony from Al-Yumi's mother, who described the encounter in harrowing detail, and from Suzuba's now ex-wife, who said he had grown agitated by the war. Hanan Shaheen testified during the trial that Suzuba had told her, "You as a Muslim must die," according to Reuters. On the day of the attack, he forced his way into the home of the Al-Fayumi family, who had been renting rooms from him, and attacked them with a knife, prosecutors said. He stabbed the mother over a dozen times, prosecutors said, then turned towards the boy and stabbed him 26 times. Evidence during trial included graphic crime scene photos and police saying they found Suzuba outside the house after the attack with his body and hands covered in blood. The deadly attack received national attention and renewed concerns of Islamophobia, anti-Muslim discrimination, and anti-Palestinian prejudice. The young boy had celebrated his 6th birthday just a few weeks before he was killed. He loved soccer, he loved basketball. The executive director of the Chicago office of the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, Ahmed Rehab, said at the time. Sentencing for hate-motivated assault in Vaughn. Source, yrp.ca. Location, Vaughan, Ontario, Canada. A Vaughan man has been convicted and sentenced to 12 months custody, followed by 2 years of probation, after a hate-motivated assault that occurred in the city of Vaughan. On Saturday, January 6, 2024, at about 1:45 p.m., York Regional Police responded to a report of a suspected hate-motivated assault against 4 Jewish adults. The victims reported they were walking home from a synagogue in the area of Bathurst Street and Flamingo Road when they were approached by a suspect on an electric bicycle. An argument ensued, during which time the suspect spat at the victims and made anti-Semitic comments before riding away. On March 12, 2025, Justice M. Townsend found Kenneth Jiwan Gobin, 36, of Vaughan, guilty of 2 counts of assault and 1 count of breach of probation. On May 13, 2025, following a sentencing hearing with multiple victim and community impact statements, Justice Townsend sentenced Gobin to 12 months custody, followed by 2 years of probation. York Regional Police takes these matters seriously and is reminding the community we will not tolerate any form of hate crime. All reports of hate crime or hate bias incidents will be investigated thoroughly. If you witness or have been the victim of a hate crime or hate/bias incident, we encourage you to report it to police immediately. Hate has no place in York Region. A growing wave of hate-motivated acts. Durham police investigating anti-Muslim graffiti in Whitby. Source, durhamregion.com. Location, Whitby, Ontario, Canada. At least 2 separate incidents discovered Tuesday morning. Officials are speaking out after anti-Muslim graffiti was found at several locations in Whitby. Durham Regional Police said investigations into the incidents are ongoing and that the force's hate crime unit has been notified. The language involved is offensive and has a significant impact on our Muslim community, police said in a tweet on May 20th detailing the incident. The Durham Regional Police Service does not tolerate any form of hate speech or hate-motivated crimes in our community, the statement continued. We are committed to fostering a safe, inclusive, and respectful environment for all residents. Acts of hatred and discrimination have no place in our region, and we will continue to work diligently with our partners and the public to prevent and address these incidents. Whitby Mayor Elizabeth Roy called the incident unacceptable and noted that police reported hate crimes rose by 32% in 2023 alone, according to Statistics Canada, the 3rd increase in the last 4 years. These numbers reflect a growing wave of hate-motivated acts in communities of all sizes, targeting people because of their religion, race, identity, or beliefs, she said. This graffiti is part of a troubling trend that we are seeing across the country. The hate graffiti was found in at least 2 locations, including a bridge and the signage of a private organization, although officials say there have been reports of more locations that are still being confirmed. Durham Region are investigating after anti-Muslim graffiti was found. Man found guilty of killing trans woman in first federal hate crime trial over gender identity. Source, pbs.org. Location, Columbia, South Carolina. A South Carolina man was found guilty Friday of killing a black transgender woman in the nation's first federal trial over a hate crime based on gender identity. After deliberating for roughly 4 hours, jurors convicted Daqua Lamique Ritter of a hate crime for the murder of Dime Doe in 2019. Ritter was also found guilty of using a firearm in connection with the fatal shooting and obstructing justice. A sentencing date has not yet been scheduled. Ritter faces a maximum of life imprisonment without parole. This case stands as a testament to our committed effort to fight violence that is targeted against those who may identify as a member of the opposite sex for their sexual orientation or any other protected characteristics. Brooke Andrews, an assistant U.S. attorney for the District of South Carolina, told reporters after the verdict, "While federal officials have previously prosecuted hate crimes based on gender identity, the cases never reached trial. A Mississippi man received a 49-year prison sentence in 2017 as part of a plea deal after he admitted to killing a 17-year-old transgender woman." The 4-day trial over Doe's killing centered on the secret sexual relationship between her and Ritter, the latter of whom had grown agitated by the exposure of their affair in the small town of Allendale, according to witness testimony and text messages obtained by the FBI. Prosecutors accused Ritter of shooting Doe 3 times with a .22 caliber handgun to prevent further revelation of his involvement with a transgender woman. Prosecutors presented police interviews in which Ritter said he did not see Doe the day she died, but body camera video from a traffic stop of Doe showed Ritter's distinctive left wrist tattoo on a person in the passenger seat hours before police found her slumped in the car, parked in a driveway. Defense lawyer Lindsey Vaughn argued at trial that no physical evidence pointed to Ritter. State law enforcement never processed a gunshot residue test that he took voluntarily, she said, and the pair's intimate relationship and frequent car rides made it no surprise that Ritter would have been with her. Doe's close friends testified that it was no secret in Allendale that she had begun her social transition as a woman shortly after graduating high school. She started dressing in skirts, getting her nails done, and wearing extensions. She and her friends discussed boys they were seeing, including Ritter, whom she met during one of his many summertime visits from New York to stay with family. But text messages obtained by the FBI suggested that Ritter sought to keep their relationship under wraps as much as possible, prosecutors said. He reminded her to delete their communications from her phone, and hundreds of texts sent in the month before her death were removed. Shortly before Doe's death, their exchanges grew tense. In one message from July 29, 2019, she complained that Ritter did not reciprocate her generosity. He replied that he thought they had an understanding, that she didn't need the, quote, extra stuff. He also told her that Delasia Green, his main girlfriend at the time, had insulted him with a homophobic slur after learning of the affair. In a July 31st text, Doe said she felt used and Ritter should never have to let Green find out about them. Ritter's defense attorney said the sampling represented only a snapshot of their messages. They pointed to other exchanges where Doe encouraged Ritter, or whether he thanked her for one of her many kindnesses. Witnesses offered other damaging testimony. On the day Doe died, a group of friends saw Ritter ride away in a silver car with tinted windows, a vehicle that Ritter's acquaintance Cordell Jenkins said he had seen Doe drive previously. When Ritter returned several hours later, Jenkins said he wore a new outfit and appeared, quote, on edge. The friends built a fire in a barrel to smoke out the mosquitoes on that buggy summer day, and Ritter emptied his book bag into it. Jenkins testified. He said he couldn't see the contents, but assumed they were items Ritter no longer wanted, possibly the clothes he wore earlier. The two ran into each other the following day, Jenkins said, and he could see the silver handle of a small firearm sticking out from Ritter's waistline. He said Ritter asked him to get it gone. Defense attorneys suggested that Jenkins fabricated the story to please prosecutors and argued it was preposterous to think Ritter would ask someone he barely knew to dispose of a murder weapon. They said Ritter's friends gave conflicting accounts about details like the purported burning of his clothes, while facing the threat of prosecution if they failed to cooperate. With Allendale abuzz with rumors that Ritter killed Doe, he began behaving uncharacteristically, according to witness testimony. Green said that when he showed up days later at her cousin's house in Columbia, he was dirty, smelly, and couldn't stop pacing. Her cousin's boyfriend gave Ritter a ride to the bus stop. Before he left, Green asked him if he had killed Doe. He dropped his head and gave me a little smirk, Green said. Ritter monitored the fallout from New York, FBI Special Agent Clay Trippey said, citing Facebook messages with another friend, Xavier Pinckney. On August 11th, Pinckney told Ritter that nobody was really talking, but by August 14th, Pinckney was warning Ritter to stay away from Allendale because he had been visited by state police. Somebody was snitching, he later said. Pinckney faces charges of obstructing justice. Federal officials allege he gave false and misleading statements to investigators. Israel-Hamas war fuels increase in hate crimes, protests in 2023. Source, vpd.ca. Location, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Tensions from the Israel-Hamas war have fueled increases in protest activity and hate crimes in Vancouver, resulting in rising anti-Semitism and more than $2.5 million in overtime costs to the Vancouver Police Department since October 7th alone. Sunday marked 100 days since the Hamas attack on Israel, a moment in history that will not be forgotten by the many communities directly and indirectly impacted by the violence of that day, said Staff Sergeant Astrid Bonter with VPD's Diversity, Community, and Indigenous Relations section. While I cannot begin to speak on behalf of the communities embroiled in this conflict, I can say without question that your suffering is seen and heard. In total, Vancouver police investigated 265 hate crime reports across all communities in 2023, a 31% increase from the previous year. Increased reporting from the 2S LGBTQ+ South Asian and Jewish communities, fueled largely by the geopolitical tensions, were all major factors. Those same factors led to an unprecedented number of protests in Vancouver last year. Protests often draw large groups of people with opposing views and create significant volatility due to the emotions involved, said Inspector Jeff Newman with VPD's Emergency Operations and Planning section, which oversaw security planning and police deployment for 2,700 special events, including protests last year in Vancouver. We support everyone's right to peacefully assemble and express their views under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We encourage everyone who protests to do so peacefully, respectfully, and in accordance with the law. But anyone who breaks the law or puts others' safety at risk may face arrest and criminal charges. Though several factors contributed to the overall rise in hate incidents and protest activity in 2023, the attacks on Israel and the ensuing war in Gaza were the single biggest reason for the increases. Key metrics. Reports of anti-Semitism increased 62% in 2023 compared to 2022, when there were 29 incidents reported. Of the 47 anti-Semitic hate incidents reported to VPD in 2023, 33 occurred after October 7th. In total, Vancouver police have investigated 50 criminal offenses connected to the Israel-Hamas war, including assaults against police officers and cases of obstructing police. Suspects have been identified in 26 of the 50 incidents. To date, VPD has recommended criminal charges in 17 cases, resulting in 9 people being charged in connection with 11 different incidents. 6 cases are currently being reviewed by Crown Counsel. There were 1,018 protests in Vancouver in 2023, resulting in a 27% increase in officers being deployed and more than $4 million in overtime costs. 80 of the 1,018 protests in Vancouver last year occurred after October 7th and have been linked to the Israeli-Hamas conflict. These 80 protests alone have resulted in 1,800 overtime shifts at a cost of $2.5 million. VPD immediately took action following the October 7th attacks on Israel by Hamas, and has continued to work closely with community and faith leaders to ease tensions and address safety concerns during the ongoing war. Within hours of the attacks, VPD activated its Department Operations Center to serve as a 24/7 command and control center. Commanders in the DOC have coordinated staffing for protests, and experienced major crime investigators have overseen the investigations into all reported incidents related to the conflict. Beginning October 7th, dedicated officers were assigned to maintain visible police presence and conduct proactive patrols at high-risk locations, including places of worship, community centers, and faith-based schools. School liaison officers have also worked with public and private schools serving impacted communities, and VPD continues to share information with local and international public safety partners. Hate speech on social networks. Individual charged. Source rcmp.ca. Location Rivière-du-Loup, Quebec, Canada. Federal policing Eastern Region has arrested a man in Rivière-du-Loup for posting hate speech on the social networks Telegram and X. According to an investigation by the Integrated National Security Enforcement Team, the individual allegedly posted hundreds of hateful messages in recent months targeting Jewish communities and sexual minorities in particular. As some of the offenses were allegedly committed when he was a minor, we cannot reveal his identity. The man was arrested last February for similar offenses and released on conditions. The investigation showed that despite his previous arrest, he continued his illegal activities online. He is now facing charges of willful promotion of hatred and willful promotion of anti-Semitism under the Criminal Code. Opinion: Canada must recognize anti-homeless attacks as hate crimes. Guest author Dr. Catherine Mayer, University of Winnipeg. Dr. Carolyn Green, Athabasca University. Dr. Justin Tetreault, University of Alberta. And Dr. Marta Marika Urbanik, University of Alberta. Source athabasca.ca. Location Athabasca, Alberta, Canada. Canada and several other countries have reported recent increases in hate-motivated violence against unhoused people. However, in Canada, people experiencing homelessness are not considered a protected class, nor does the law recognize them as people belonging to an identifiable group. In Canada, hate-motivated crimes are those that target people from identifiable groups based on the, quote, prohibited grounds of race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexuality, language, age, and disability. Unhoused people don't necessarily fit neatly into one or more of these groups, and that means the hate directed toward them because they're unhoused is often ignored. Homelessness in Lethbridge. In spring 2022, we interviewed and spent time with 50 unhoused people in Lethbridge, Alberta, 34 of whom were Indigenous. Estimates suggest approximately 450 people are unhoused in Lethbridge, most of whom are Indigenous due to historical and ongoing colonial oppression. We asked participants about many things, including how they experienced street life and safety. Approximately 5% of Canadians have experienced unsheltered homelessness. This refers to people living in shelters, parks, tent cities, or makeshift shelters. In the United States, data shows homelessness has risen to its highest ever reported level. Our research in Lethbridge shows how poverty and homelessness in particular can dramatically increase a person's risk of being a victim of a hate crime. Put another way, being homeless compounds the risk factors that make people more vulnerable to hate-motivated attacks. We call this the cumulative risk of hate crime victimization. Anti-homeless hate crime. Nearly all participants expressed feeling unsafe in downtown Lethbridge, fearing they may be attacked by a group they call the White Guerrillas. Participants described them as a white hate group that predominantly targets unhoused Indigenous persons, especially Indigenous women. They also shared that white guerrilla violence was motivated by anti-homeless hatred, meaning the group could attack anyone living on the streets. According to interviewees, the white guerrillas traveled in vehicles looking for vulnerable persons to attack. Some reported being victimized by the group themselves. Many others knew someone who had been verbally, physically, or sexually abused by the group. As one participant stated, they come into town, they beat the shit out of people, they take girls in their vehicles, and, they lure them into that truck and take off out of town. Beat the shit out of them, rape them. Experts describe hate crimes as message crimes because of how these attacks instill fear in communities that share the victim's identity. Sociologists call this experience vicarious victimization. The routine attacks against our participants caused immense stress in Lethbridge's unhoused community. Interviewees explain how they developed strategies to protect themselves. This included hiding, traveling in groups, and avoiding the downtown core, especially at night. However, most saw these safety measures as futile due to the challenges of living outdoors and being visibly unhoused. Some participants also shared that they reported these hate crimes to local police. The officers, they claim, were not interested in protecting victims nor investigating these attacks. It is unclear whether these horrific acts were perpetrated by a singular organized group. It is possible that they were committed by various persons who were unconnected to each other. However, the consequences of this victimization for people experiencing homelessness remain the same. Anti-homeless violence and vicarious victimization introduce further challenges for unhoused people as they limit their movement and access to social services out of fear of being victimized. What can we do? The Canadian Human Rights Commission has called for recognizing unhoused people's human rights by acknowledging anti-homeless violence as a hate crime. Current hate crime legislation does not list unhoused people as a protected class because homelessness is not an, quote, immutable characteristic. This is despite the fact that some protected classes are also not static. For example, people can change their religion. Experiences with disability can also change over time. Thus, focusing on immutable characteristics is arguably based upon flawed logic. Many unhoused people are an identified group vulnerable to attack precisely because of their unhoused status. Being unhoused makes Indigenous people more vulnerable to hate-motivated violence, especially Indigenous women. This is a textbook example of what sociologists call intersectionality, referring to how discrimination increases when a person is a member of multiple oppressed groups. Governments can address the intersectional oppression of this violence by implementing the recommendations of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murder of Indigenous Women and Girls and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. Anti-homeless violence should be designated a hate crime, and people experiencing homelessness must be considered and treated as a protected class under Canadian law. Protected status may pressure cities to address housing insecurity and encourage law enforcement to track and investigate anti-homeless violence. However, improving public safety will not protect unhoused people from victimization. The best way to protect unhoused people from the violence they face is to provide them with safe and permanent housing. The government priority must be to provide safe housing and services to reduce vulnerability. Governments must also work to decrease biases against people experiencing homelessness that increase their risk of hate crime victimization and make it easier to ignore their suffering. Hate crime reported involving vandalism, racial slurs. Source PasadenaNow.com. Location Pasadena, California. Police are investigating a hate crime incident that occurred Saturday afternoon where an electrical utility box and a local restaurant were vandalized following racial slurs directed at people of Armenian descent, according to Pasadena Police Lieutenant Monica Quayler. The incident took place at approximately 3:34 p.m. on Saturday, May 17th in the 100 block of North Hill Avenue, Quayler said. Officers responded to a vandalism report and discovered damage to both an electrical utility box and the side of a restaurant, Quayler said. The case was classified as a hate crime after investigators determined that a 38-year-old Hispanic man from Pasadena had directed racial slurs toward a group of Armenian individuals before the vandalism occurred. The investigation is ongoing, Quayler said, noting that no arrests had been made in connection with the incident. The involved party sustained minor injuries, including a small abrasion on his forehead and nose, according to Quayler. It remains unclear how these injuries were sustained or if medical treatment was provided. Woman speaks out after alleged homophobic attack at McDonald's in Illinois. Source ABC News. Location Carpentersville, Illinois. A 19-year-old woman was physically attacked and called derogatory names at a McDonald's in Illinois, with 2 males, including 1 juvenile, charged for the incident, according to the Carpentersville Police Department. The incident occurred on May 13th when police responded to a report of a fight at a McDonald's in Carpentersville, Illinois, which is about an hour outside of Chicago. Once on the scene, officials determined the incident, quote, involved an aggravated battery against a female victim, police said in a press release shared over the weekend. Officials said the altercation began when 2 male suspects made, quote, derogatory remarks about the victim's sexual orientation as they passed by her. The female victim, 19-year-old Katie Grass, told ABC News she and her 13-year-old cousin were grabbing food at the McDonald's when Grass decided to use the bathroom. Both the restroom stalls were full, so she walked out right away when one boy out of a group of 3 began calling her a derogatory name, she told ABC News. She said she mumbled under her breath, but walked away and told her cousin to not give them another reason to talk to us. One of the boys, the juvenile who was later charged, approached Grass again, saying they wanted to fight her and they should take it outside, she said. Grass said she then proceeded to go outside of the McDonald's, but no one came out. When she returned inside to her cousin, she told Grass she overheard the males and said, "They have a gun and they are going to kill you." Grass later found out that it was an empty threat, as police did not find a gun in the suspect's possession. The other male who was later charged, 19-year-old John Camerad, approached Grass and said, "You're a woman, you're not tough." To which Grass replied, "I know I'm a woman, I'm a lesbian." She said she then looked at the juvenile, who had this look in his eyes, and began to smile at her. "I had a bad feeling about what was going to happen," Grass said. "All because I like girls." This is my interview with Katie Grass. So thank you very much, by the way, for doing this. I know it can't be easy to talk about.
Yeah.
I read about the story, and I also saw a couple of news reports about it. So how are you doing? I mean, that kind of experience obviously is very traumatic, and definitely must have thrown you for a loop there. How are you doing now?
Physically, I'm healing really fast. So my nose, well, it's obviously still broken. So, um, I haven't really been able to go see a doctor or anything. I still have a hemorrhage in my eye, but I'm doing better now. There's no more bloody noses or spitting up blood. Um, and but just that mentally, it's been harder for me because I'm up in all middle of the night. So I even started some side projects. I built a side table and a couch because I can't sleep because that's all I dream about.
Yeah, have you ever had an experience like that before?
No, I've been in fights. I've been in gunpoint before. I've been in a couple car accidents. I was even sexually assaulted once. But no, I was never made fun of for being a lesbian before. And I was never almost killed because of it.
Wow. So none of those incidents had anything to do with your sexual orientation, eh?
No.
Wow. Um, so yeah, so I'm gonna, even though I will be reading what I've gleaned from reading an article about it, um, I'm just gonna get you to go through the incident. So you said that, like right away, you got this feeling from these guys, like they had designs on harassing you and attacking you.
It wasn't both of them. The adult didn't even get involved until a little later. It was the minor who gave me these bad vibes because sometimes while he was arguing with me, he would stop and he would look right into my eyes and he would just smile. And it was really creepy and it was just giving me like something was off.
Yeah. So so was it similar to when you were sexually assaulted, where they they had kind of a creepy, seedy vibe about them?
Yeah, because when that happened, I was cornered in my own bathroom, and he was just repeating himself over and over again. So yeah, to give me the same vibe because the adult kept repeating over and over again, I'm a woman and I'm not tough. So yeah, I just got the same vibe from that, except for it was like my sexual assaulter didn't try to end my life. He just affected it by a lot.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, yeah. And and there was a lot of verbal abuse too with this incident. They were calling you names.
Yeah, the minor started it. He called me a faggot, and obviously that's how the argument started. We started arguing about how he called me a faggot, and um, well, then later on when he got more up into my face, he said, "Well, you are a faggot." So I think he said that because he didn't understand why I was being so offended by it. I don't really know. It was more like a question when he said it, and the adult just kept mentioning about how I'm a woman and that I'm not tough. And I think, to be honest, I think I got attacked because they thought I was transgender, but I'm not. And I
Mm.
worked into the women's bathroom. So, yeah, I definitely, that's why when I was arguing with them, I said, I am a woman, I'm a lesbian. And I was trying to make it clear, I'm not a transgender. I'm not trying to go into the wrong bathroom or anything like that. So I thought I could de-escalate the situation, but that's when the minor said we don't need weapons to kill you. So either way, they were just gonna do what they did.
And I didn't recognize the name of the town you live in. So is it a really small town?
It actually didn't happen in the town I lived in. I was
Oh,
visiting family. It was my hometown that it happened in. So I'm originally from there. It is um it is Carpentersville, Illinois. I don't know if you know where Elgin is, but it's near Elgin. It's like right next to it.
I live in Canada, so I'm not familiar with all these
Oh,
areas.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's one thing I've noticed too is like just in the media, probably more on the internet, but it seems like homophobia is on the rise, in these kinds of attacks are on the rise. There's a lot of people in the media who make people like the people who attacked you feel like it's justified, I guess.
Yeah, I've read some of the comments and people were saying that if you're a man then or if you are trying to act like a man, then you should fight like a man and you shouldn't like cry about it or anything like that. Or some people are saying maybe she walked into the men's bathroom instead of the women's. And some people just call me a little boy. But yeah, I get a lot of hate online for this, what happened to me. And I did notice that there was a story about a transgender who was stabbed 14 times. I don't know when that was, but I was literally just told that yesterday, because it's like, it was similar, but not so similar, you know?
Yeah. Wow, 14 times. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So are these guys, have they been charged? Did you have them arrested, or?
The detective did ask me if I wanted to press charges, and I said, yes, I do. And what I do know is that the day that they were arrested right away after it happened to me, but then they were released. And I don't know much about the minor, but I do know the minor did turn himself in. I don't know if he's released on bail or anything like that. I don't know if he's still in jail or anything, but I do know that he did get arrested because he turned himself in. And then I do know the adult he was arrested. He did not turn himself in, and he was transferred to a different county in a different jail because for different charges that he had a warrant out for his arrest. And they were charged with mob action, something about it being in a public area, battery, and there was 2 girls who were with them. When I went to go use the bathroom, I walked out right away because the 2 girls were in the bathroom and it was occupied, and I didn't know that they were with them, but they came out while I was unconscious, and they stole my phone, my wallet, and my cousin's phone, who was with me. And so what I know is that they're being charged with misdemeanors, and there was a 3rd guy who was with them who won't be charged with anything because he did not hit me, and he didn't even want to be involved with what they were doing.
Oh, wow. I see. And how have your family reacted to this?
Well, my mom and dad were extremely upset. My family is more of a kind of people that they want to handle it themselves, but obviously they were arrested, and that would have just not made anything better. So they're really upset. They want justice as much as I do. I'm really worried about my 13-year-old cousin who was with me when it happened. She's having PTSD and nightmares because she thought she saw me die.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Is that bad, huh?
Yeah.
And these guys, they really seem to be feeling rage about it, right?
But what I could tell from it is that I don't know if the minor was angry. The adult was obviously angry. I could tell he was angry, but the minor, he just seemed awfully calm in the situation. Even when he was hitting me, he just had this calm demeanor about him, and it was just really psychotic to me.
Wow. Yeah, it must be like a sociopath, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you, so it's been in the media a bit. Has there been a lot of negative attention with, like, homophobic people? I think you mentioned that earlier, yeah.
Unfortunately, there will always be people out there that will say something, like, out of pocket, or, like, say the most stupidest things online about the situation. But, yeah, I was actually told not to read the comments no more because they're just, like, some of them are so bad. And a lot of people are blaming me, assuming that I provoked them, or I tried using the men's bathroom, or I'm just a transgender, and some people are just putting me down for me almost dying, and I think that's, like, horrific. And yeah, there's some out there, but there are some other people out there who are really supportive and really appreciative, and a lot of people have contacted me. No people that hated or the homophobic, no people have personally texted me. It's just been in the comment sections. The only people who have tried to personally text me are people that want to share support and obviously want to do something about it.
Yeah, and that, of course, that's what you should focus on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, when it comes time for this case to go to trial, do you think you're going to be able to testify? Because that's going to be tough, you know. That's
Yes, I will be able to testify. What I don't know is that if my cousin would or not, because she's a minor and she's obviously been kept out of social media about the whole thing. And obviously, 100%, I want them to have justice. And I want them to see my face after they did what they did. And it didn't even take, like, it's been like more than 1 week already, and I'm like, my face is practically back to normal, except for my nose is a little crooked and I have hemorrhage in my eye still.
Yeah, I saw a photo that you took. It must have been like immediately after, and yeah, you looked really banged up there. They did a lot of damage. Yeah.
In the hospital, was it a photo in the hospital?
No, you were in your car. Yeah.
Oh, I think that was at least like 2-3 days after.
Oh, is that right? Oh, okay. So it was even worse than that before.
Oh yeah, trust me. There was blood coming from my head and marks, and I couldn't even put my head down on the pillow because it hurt so much. And my nose, like, there was blood coming out of my nose and my mouth, and just even my eye was bleeding, and it was way worse than that photo.
God. And sadly, I don't know, like, these stories really, at this point, they don't really get a ton of press beyond the parameters of what you've experienced, I don't think. Like, unless you happen to be a celebrity already. But it seems like they're happening so often that it's just, I guess people aren't fazed by it as much. It's just...
Yeah, I wasn't even expecting to go on the news. It really caught me off guard when news started contacting me, and like, it was a lot at one time. I think it was like 3 days in a row I was getting so many news people texting me. But it's obviously slowed down. I didn't do any interviews today. I did like one yesterday, and that was the least amount that I've done in the past 3 days after it happened. And I've only done 2 in person, and the rest were online.
Yeah, okay. And so how old are you, by the way?
I'm 19 years old.
19, wow.
Mm-hmm.
You've had all these traumatic experiences so early in life, too. What a drag that is.
Yeah, I keep my head up high. I'm one of those people that are randomly always positive, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, doing art is a good way to distract yourself and to stay in the moment. Like, did you do those things in the background there, the black things on the wall?
No, I bought these on Shein.
Oh, you
but
did?
I did build that after it happened, and I built this couch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I've taken up and building random things.
Yeah, that's a good idea, yeah. That way you can keep yourself in the moment. Playing video games is good for that, too. I don't know if you're a gamer, but...
I've played GTA 5. I recently got back into it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good thing, yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing this with me, and I'll let you know when I finish the episode. I'll probably finish it tomorrow, and when I publish it, I'll let you know.
All right.
All right, take care. Get better.
You have a good day.
Later, you too. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Human Monsters. Bye for now.